topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hi, and welcome to Learning to the Dance in the Rain. And I'm Shelby Wagner, your host. And this is a space where my guests and I dive deep into life's toughest challenges, providing insights, guidance, and meaningful conversations to help you navigate whatever storms may come for you or whatever you happen to be going through at the moment. Please join us today as we discuss issues, share real stories, and other practical tools to empower you on your journey to resilience. Let's face life's challenges together and learn how to dance in the rain and how to be resilient. Do you ever have a problem where you're worrying about something and you think about it and you think about it, and then all of a sudden, it goes away, but then a little while later, you're thinking about it again. Have you ever given it to the Lord? Have you prayed about that particular problem? Maybe you have, like I had in the past. But you know what? Do I leave it there with God? No, it always was popping back and bothering me. And so I thought, do I think God's not going to solve that problem for me? Or he'll tell me what to do? Or how come I have to keep taking it back all the time? I've talked to friends who say, yeah, they don't understand either why they keep chewing on something like that and can't seem to get rid of it. Well, I bought a little round box. It's got wooden letters on the top that say, My God Box. And I started writing anything that was bothering me like that and putting it in, praying to God about it, to help me with this answer, and put it in the God box. And, I found that helped quite a bit. And then I also thought, I lived in Tennessee at the time, and I saw the cows in the field. And I thought, yeah, they're out there regurgitating their food. And I thought, hey, isn't that what you were doing with that thought? You won't leave it alone. So I put in my book, Learning to Dance in the Rain, I put my little suggestion about how to give it to God and leave it there. Whenever it comes back to me, I just say, stop, Shelby, stop regurgitating. And for some reason, that word helps me a lot to get back on track again. Today, I have Pastor Carl Litchfield, my pastor from Burr Oak Methodist and Mendon, Michigan Methodist Church. And I think he just came in the studio. Welcome, Carl. Come on out here and help.
Better late than never.
How are you doing?
Story of my life.
I'm so afraid I'm going to get busy and forget this live spot at noon, and I've been doing it for a whole year.
Well, it's been a while since we've been able to do this live. I'm grateful to God for the change in my weekly schedule. It's not quite as hectic as it once was. So now here we are, Tuesday and live.
Tuesday live at 12 noon, and I appreciate it very much.
Here we are. Here we are.
We talked Sunday about maybe talking a little bit about, I love that song we started with, Friendly Beast. I didn't know why, but, doing children's Christmas programs at church, different time, and having the little kids dress up as donkeys, a donkey.
Yes.
And the sheep, and they like to baa, and they like to crawl around on the floor. And this song really meant a lot to me. And so you were I was going to speak about that a little bit, and you tied that in with something else that we're going to hopefully go into, and that's the comfort ye, my people, came out to mind
That's
when
right.
we're.
That's right.
Do you mind if I read a little bit the verses of the friendly beast real quick?
Yes, go ahead. I was trying to look it up real quick, but
Right.
if you
It
got
said
there, go right ahead.
the words were 12th century written French carol by anonymous author. But the music is a medieval French melody harmony by Carlton R. Young in 1987. But I think this has a lot to help us with this comfort thing we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But when Jesus, our brother, strong and good, was humbly born in a stable rude, and the friendly beasts around him stood, Jesus, our brother, strong and good. I, said the donkey, shaggy and brown, I carried his mother up hill and down. I carried his mother to Bethlehem town. I, said the donkey, all shaggy and brown. I, said the cow, all white and red. I gave him my manger for his bed. I gave him hay to pillow his head. I, said the cow, all white and red. And I, said the sheep with the curly horn, I gave him my wool for his blanket warm. He wore my coat on Christmas morn. I, said the sheep, curly with the curly horn. I, said the cow, oops, I'm sorry there. I, said the dove from the rafters high. I cooed him to sleep that he should not cry. We cooed him to sleep, my mate and I. I, said the dove from the rafters high. Thus, all the beasts, by some good spell, in the stable dark were glad to tell of the gifts they had given. Emmanuel, the gifts they gave. Emmanuel.
Isn't that beautiful?
So, what inspired you to speak on that hymn last Sunday?
Of course, we started a series on witnesses for Christ, or Christmas witnesses. And with, of course, the ultimate desire is to inspire us as participants in this particular season of Advent, preparing for Christmas, Christmas itself as it's coming, that we also would be stirred in our hearts to be witnesses for Christ. Speak about how Jesus has come into our lives, and how having Jesus living in our hearts is like a gift from heaven, a gift of salvation, a gift of forgiveness, and to be looking for ways in the Christmas season to be a witness. And so the series that we're doing are looking at the different witnesses in these 4 Sundays of Advent, looking for the different witnesses that we find in the Bible for Christmas. And the first one we chose was the witnesses of the animals in the nativity scene in the stable there in Bethlehem as they witnessed the birth of Jesus. And if they could speak, what would they say? And that's why we turned to this ancient song, and it comes from a legend out of the Scandinavian countries that on midnight of Christmas Eve, to change from Christmas Eve to Christmas Day, it was considered that midnight was at that point that Jesus was born. And the legend is that at midnight on Christmas Eve, the beginning of Christmas morning, that the once more the animals in the barn would be once more able to speak. And so that's the source of this song. But what kind of witnesses are they? What do they see? And if it were possible for them to share, what would they say? Now, this coming Sunday, the witnesses we're going to point to are going to be the angels come from God, angels that came to visit Mary, and the angel that actually just stepped back and to the angel that came to visit Mary's distant relative, Zechariah. Zechariah and his wife Elizabeth were similar to Abraham and Sarah, that they were in old age and they never had a child. And the angel came to visit Zechariah, who is a priest serving in the temple. And angel Gabriel came and visited Zechariah to say, you and your wife are going to bear have a child together, a son, and he will be the forerunner for the Savior Jesus. So we're going to look at the angels that came to witness to human beings, to us, to tell certain select few in this world about what was about to happen, and the good news that these people received, and how the different ways that they received it. Zechariah did not receive it well. I will just hint that, and it caused a great deal of difficulty for Zechariah and his wife Elizabeth. And I'm not going to go into detail, but if you want to know, just tune into that message, or come to visit us at Baroque United Methodist Church at 11 o'clock. But that'll be a great thing. So Zechariah's visited. We'll mention, of course, the visitation of Angel Gabriel to Mary, as Mary finds out that she is to be, and she willingly agrees to be the mother of the Savior of the world. And the angels that visit the shepherds. Now, on the following Sunday, we'll take the witness of the shepherds after they have been told by the witnesses of the angels. The shepherds go and they discover this newborn baby, just as the angels described it to them. And they're so filled with joy, they tell everybody they can find that they witness the baby who is newborn. They know that this is a Savior that's been given to the world. If this fits exactly the message the angels have given to them. And they're so excited about this good news, they go out and they tell everybody. Now, that's the perfect and true human witness. And finally, we're going to look at the star of Bethlehem as a witness to those wise men that came from the east. The star told the wise men responded, and they sacrificed and they traveled through long distances to arrive to worship this newborn King of Israel. Of course, they proved to be faulty witnesses, because they go and tell the one person they should never have told, who is already the King of Israel, who is disturbed to find out that another King of Israel has been born, and it creates all sorts of tragic consequences. But the witness of the star leads to the witness of the wise men. God's choosing different ways to speak to different ones. And just as God chose to speak to Joseph, rather than sending an angel, God spoke to Joseph in a dream and telling Joseph how this baby that Mary is carrying is a baby that has been formed by God, created by God, and will be the Savior of the world. And then Christmas Eve the witnesses will be Mary and Joseph. And then ultimately we will be placing Jesus into his place there on Christmas Eve in the nativity scene. So that's the series of witnessing that we're going to be covering. And that was why we turned, first of all, to the friendly beast.
I don't think, well, I was surprised by what you led into from there. The silence of the animals.
Yes.
As far as we know, they couldn't speak.
Right.
And how you, what do you call it, morphed into visitation of people who are grieving or
right.
Mm-hmm. And I would like to kind of talk about that.
Right.
Why that you went into how you, well, I'm going to let you tell your story there.
Well, I have, and I think we all have had these times when we've experienced losses in our lives. That might be a loss through divorce. It might be a loss through the death of a loved one, the death of a spouse, whatever the tragedy might be, whatever the sorrow might be, what the source of the broken heart. And it becomes a kind of a question about how we can experience what the angels said to the shepherds, how there can be peace on earth and goodwill to all. How can this peace on earth come to us as a gift from God for us who are suffering, who are hurting right now, to be able to celebrate or at least observe the Christmas holiday. And what are the different kinds of things that people choose to do as Christmas comes around, especially those first Christmases? I remember my mother was sometime after my dad had died. We were still gathering together as a large family, my 5 brothers and our wives and our children. And we were gathering for we combined Thanksgiving and family Christmas together all in one big day. And we've been giving goofy gifts to family gifts. We weren't doing individual gifts at all. It was just way too many people to give gifts to. So we were doing all these goofy family gifts. And I can't remember what it was that got us all laughing. We were at my brother's house in Illinois celebrating Thanksgiving, Christmas. And all of a sudden, Mom sat back in the couch. She was sitting at the end of the couch. And she said, well, guess what, boys? My mother, it didn't matter how old we were. And we could have been in our 30s, 40s, or 50s, or 70s, or whatever. But we were still just the boys. She says, guess what, boys? And we said, what, Mom? And she says, it's been 5 years since Dad died. And this is the first year that I can say that Christmas feels like Christmas again to me. Mm-hmm. It had taken that long for a healing in her heart, and the sadness of missing Dad on those Christmas days, facing them sometimes alone. Sometimes I think at this point she was living in the retirement center in Grand Rapids, the Clark home that our church runs. And so for once she was kind of re-experiencing the joy of Christmas. And, it can take that long. People kind of, well, gee, it's been a couple of years now. Why are you still crying? Why are you still sad? The heart takes that long and longer oftentimes to heal. So the question becomes, what's the best approach to handling Christmas when we're experiencing broken hearts? And I've seen these things happen, people freely choosing either one way or another, that no matter what, one response is no matter what, the traditions have to continue on. The Christmas tree has to go up at this certain point in time. It has to be placed in this certain spot in the house. Has to be decorated. We have to have the children or grandchildren involved. And we still plan on doing all the things that we can that we'd have always done, keeping every tradition as far as possible. That's one particular approach. And of course, the tradition's broken because we have that empty chair at the table when we sit down to dinner. And there's no way to fill that empty chair. And so we still have to deal with our sadness, even though we have successfully, quote unquote, experienced our Christmas. And then I've seen entirely a different kind of response. There was one woman in particular that it was perhaps late summer that she was widowed. And she was a parishioner of my wife, Pastor Jerry Litchfield. And Jerry was serving a church that was nearby. And at the time of this particular couple was some folks in Jerry's church that I'd met. So when this man died, I attended the funeral and that sort of thing. And there were from time to time, we were in fellowship together. Our churches were together. And I would be able to visit with her, with the widowed lady, with my wife. And when Christmas time came, she chose an entirely different approach. She said, I'm getting out of Dodge. I'm not going to entertain. I'm not going to be putting on a big meal. I'm not putting up a Christmas tree. Her plan was just before Christmas. I'm not condoning this at all in any way, but her plan was to head off and go to a casino and spend about a week in the motel or the hotel building at the casino. Now, I don't know. She probably was one of those casual gamblers and that sort of thing. And she just wanted to completely escape and be completely in a different place and choose a completely different approach to handling Christmas Day. So there's your two ways, of finding that comfort that we need. I think trying to keep all the traditions is going to be hard to do, but to just take off and disappear, well, the family knew where she was at and that sort of thing. But to do an entirely different thing, I think that takes a lot of courage to do that. So the question becomes, what do you think is going to help you the best and the most to find that comfort that the holidays have always offered to us, that joy that the holidays have always offered to us? What's the best approach for you? And no one person, nobody else can answer that question except the one who's going through that time of grief.
That's right. That's a very good point to bring up, that everybody experiences or grieves differently,
Exactly.
in their own way. And
oh yeah, you're right.
Now, what does it say? Not one size fits all.
Okay.
And it's I think we need to encourage people to express themselves in their own time and manner, whether it's crying or talking or being silent or whatever.
Right.
We respect their individuality and help them to be authentic. I think it's a good thing to bring up. I saw this on online the other day, this quote from Life, Learn, Feelings, and I was touched by it. Grief is like living two lives. One is where you pretend that everything is all right, and the other is where your heart silently screams in pain.
Wow. That's so strong.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
That it touched me, and I thought, hey, I think that was yesterday I saw that, and I thought, wow, I think that fits with our discussion for today.
Yeah. And if somebody comes up and say, well, how are you doing? We usually just say, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than try to just begin to pour our heart out to someone who just casually was greeting us. How you doing? I'm fine. They probably didn't know that they were signing up for an hour on the psychologist couch. But we so often, we're looking for that chance to have that intimate sharing, I think. But there's very few people that are truly interested, deeply interested, intimately concerned for us, that if you tried to pour out your heart to them, they would be astonished and appalled and not know exactly what to do.
Right. What advice would you give someone who of what to say when you go through the line at a funeral, or even later on when you see someone that's grieving? It's
Well, I always say, speak the truth in love. And I know perhaps this is, by the time, the line of the visitors, there's a long visitation at the funeral home. There's been a lot of visitors to come through and that sort of thing. You're looking for that unique thing to say, that some special source of wisdom or something like that. But the truth is to speak the truth. What's the truth in your heart? If you're hurting for them, say, I am so sorry. I am my heart is really hurting for you. Just say those words that expresses where you were at that particular moment. Be honest. Be kind. I wouldn't begin to start dredging up any of the awkwardness or the some of the gossip that's going around about the particular dreadfulness of the death, or some particular misinformation that's going around, and you speak to the widowed person and you say, well, I heard there was this and this, and that's not going to be helpful, I don't think, at all. And
right. I think just expressing, maybe just say, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Exactly. Nice and simple.
We're all going to miss
it's
them.
all true. It's caring.
Mm-hmm.
Short and sweet. Yeah.
What about is it okay to call them maybe if they're a couple of weeks later or a week later?
Absolutely.
A lot of people will think, well, I don't know what to say.
Right.
I believe you drew I don't know the word for it, but a comparison with the animals at Jesus' birth,
Huh.
that they were silent.
Oh, right. It is possible. Yeah.
A story of someone who had gone to visit their friend.
Right.
And actually, later they were asked, "What did you say?" And it said, "Well, I didn't really say anything. I
Right.
listened." And
Perfect. A
how
perfect
many
response.
times do you hear people, I don't know if you've read it, but it says, um, it's important for us to be good listeners.
Exactly.
Sometimes,
We
yeah.
can assume they're probably brokenhearted about this, and this. And the
Hmm.
thing, perhaps on that given day, maybe a couple of weeks down the road, when you
Hmm.
call them up, simply ask, "Well, how are you doing?" Just open the door. Just ask that open-ended kind of question, and you might be surprised to find out what it is that's troubling them on that particular day. Maybe there's been a delay in the probation of the estate or something like that. Maybe there's been some kind of glitch that's come up, or maybe there's some conflict that's arisen within the inner family. And the widowed person wants to talk about that. Just open the door and let them express what in that particular
What
moment
they
is
want to say,
most
right.
important to them. Exactly what they want. Yeah.
When you were talking about that, I remembered that I had included this anonymous letter in
I
my
wanted to
book.
hear that letter.
Chapter 4, I told you it was second or third, but it's chapter 4, and
Okay.
list says here is a list of my dances or my activities of when I was grieving, and one of them is to keep in touch with your friends and family. It says, perhaps you don't know what to say. So this is from the widow's respect, actually, but it says, maybe you could give a copy of this anonymous letter to your friends and family who don't really know what they should say to you, but
Okay.
this would help them to better understand how they can help you. So I'm quoting this, it's anonymously written. Please be gentle with me, for I am grieving. The sea I swim in is a lonely one, and the shore seems miles away. Waves of despair numb my soul as I struggle through each day. My heart is heavy with sorrow. I want to shout and scream and repeatedly ask why. At times, my grief overwhelms me and I weep bitterly. So great is my loss. Please don't turn away or tell me to move on with my life. I must embrace my pain before I can begin to heal. Companion me through my tears and sit with me in loving silence. Honor where I am in my journey, not where you think I should be. Listen patiently to my story. I may need to tell it over and over again, but this is how I begin to grasp the enormity of my loss. Nurture me through the weeks and months ahead. Forgive me when I seem distant and inconsolable. A small flame still burns within my heart, and shared memories may trigger both laughter and tears. I need your support and understanding. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. I must find my own path. Please, will you walk beside me?
That is a beautiful letter.
Isn't that beautiful? And I
It is.
thought
Yeah.
at the time, and still now that I read it, that's express the feelings of the grieving person.
Mm-hmm.
But it
Mm-hmm.
also, you realize that the other person may not know what to say to you.
Right.
And
How do they respond when you are hurting
right,
so?
and maybe they've heard my story of those last days a million times, but even my husband died in 16, so that's what, 8 years ago. And there are still memories that will pop up every once in a while. And Yep,
Mhm.
the tears come.
Mhm, mhm.
And I think that's okay. A
Right,
person,
right.
has to feel whatever it is they're feeling.
I couldn't agree with you more, Shelby. And your experience is genuine. Your experience is yours, and how you have gone through grief, how you have processed grief.
Hmm.
That's a journey that no one else can take, but you
That's
alone.
that's right.
But it's nice to have a companion along the way. Please walk quietly by my side. Isn't that how that letter
Hmm.
concludes? It's nice to have someone who's willing to be with us when in those
Right,
times of pain. Yeah.
right. And
Takes a lot of courage for someone to step into that world, when you know that the grief is raw and the reaction is still strong, to walk into that home nevertheless and ring the doorbell and sit down in their presence and to just listen how they're doing today. And, there's not many people that have that kind of courage, or maybe not that many people have that kind of friendship that this friendship is so real and strong. I just have to be there for her. I have to go and listen to his story once more because he's important to me. It's because she has been my friend for so long. That's the kind of friendship that really comes through in times like this.
that's for sure. One of the things that I remember, um, besides that one from that particular time, was that one of my neighbors, whom I did not know well, I knew her well enough to say hi when we met at the grocery store. We had talked a few times down by the creek when we both had been down there together, But the doorbell rang, and I went and answered the door, and here she was at the door.
Oh,
And the thought came to me, gee, oh, that's nice of her to stop by, uh, knowing that I had the family. She knew that my family was there, but yet she came, and she brought something she had made. I can't remember if it was cinnamon rolls or something that she had made, which were good, and I really
well,
appreciated that at the time.
well, yeah.
But as we were chatting there before she left, she says, "I have a booklet that I wondered, it's about death and dying, and I just wondered if you might like to read it." And I said, "Sure." And
Right.
so it was a little pamphlet. And it had several stories in it, but the one that meant most to me was where a minister had, you know, called on a couple from, probably more than once, a couple from their church where their children were in the hospital and they were really hurt or dying or whatever. And he would try to be, well, you know, he's going to a better place, or something to that thing. And they
So,
never
gratitude.
appreciated what he had to say. But then he got to thinking that your body could be like an egg. The shell is your body. And
Okay.
when it breaks, the yolk is broken free. And so the yolk is like your soul. Your
All
body
right.
was the shell and it's no longer there, but there's your soul. And that's what, um, no pain, you know,
That's the
for that
life that
person.
goes on
Right.
after the death of the body. Hmm.
And it lives in our hearts, So I thought that was a really good explanation of what happens when we die.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I remember the grief that I experienced when my dad died. That was the first major death in my entire life. And there have been aunts and uncles who, in my extended family, that generation were passing on. And we've been to several of their funerals before and that sort of thing. We've seen our cousins grieving, but this time it was ours. And remember, uh, towards the end of our visitation evening, I couldn't hardly. We had been congregated pretty close up to the front of the funeral home, near the casket, visiting with friends. In the end, we gravitated back to the couch and the comfortable chairs at the back of the funeral home. We didn't have as many. It was late, and we didn't have as many visitors. And I thought, why are we all back here when Dad's up there? And I thought, I just got to go be close to Dad right now. So I left this little conversation circle, and I went up and I was standing at the casket. And it just hit me. I couldn't believe that this had actually happened, that my dad had died. And here he is. He's laid out in his casket. My dad is dead. This is just hitting me hard right at that moment. And my oldest brother, David, also a pastor, he came up and he was standing there with me, and I expressed myself to him. I said, I just can't hardly believe that Dad actually died. And what David said was helpful to me. He says, the life that is within us is precious and eternal, and the body is only temporary. And it comes a time when the body becomes so corrupt that it can no longer support that ongoing life within us. And so it comes a time when the body can no longer support that life, and the body stops. And Dad's body is corrupt. Dad cannot continue on. His heart stopped. But we know that his life has gone on. And that helped me in that particular moment to know that, this is exactly what's happened here. Dad's moved on. And Dad had had a poor heart all of his life, even when he was a sickly child. He was a sickly child. And he'd had several heart attacks through his life. This is a time when his imperfect body was being laid to rest, but his eternal life was gloriously released. That's what I experienced at that time with my father's death. Now life goes on.
Right. And another scripture that is where I got the title of my book, you could say, Learning.
Oh, really?
In Ecclesiastes 3. In everything there is a season.
Oh.
I had it here. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, and so on. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and time to laugh. And a time to mourn and a time to dance. And there was a group that sang a song back in the 50s of that.
Right. Turn.
Turn.
To every season, turn. No. To every purpose, turn. There is a season, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. Beautiful song.
A beautiful way to witness right there.
Yes. Yeah.
A time to be silent is number 7. And a time
gotta learn that one.
And that's kind of what we were talking about here. Sometimes words aren't necessary. It's simply
that's true. Yes. All kidding aside, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
I thought silence is golden. Isn't that
yes, it can be. There's certainly those moments when silence is respectful. Yeah.
So it's okay to, like, for Christmas, remember my husband who's gone. I put up his stocking on the fireplace along with mine and my daughters and my sons.
Right.
It's nice to have that chair, even, at the table for Thanksgiving.
Right.
Not just that person's gone, but it's still there.
Right.
I think a nice thing to do at Thanksgiving is to go around the table and say what you're thankful for.
Yes.
So each person be able to fill that out.
Yeah.
So another thing is that as I was looking over what I might say today was to be consistent. It's nice to go to the funeral home and visit with them, and maybe it would be very nice to call them once, but you know what? It's very nice to call them again
Yes, that's
because
right.
it still hurts 6 months later or
That's
five
right.
years.
They'll still be hurting. They'll still be
Right,
hurting. Yeah.
right. So it's okay to talk about those things
Right. Right.
with
Right.
some people. I don't know. Is there ever somebody else that might not be appreciative of? I don't know of anybody that way, but might be.
But I think at certain times someone might be just wanting a day apart. And if someone called up and say, I'd like to come and say hi, just to sit down and visit, they might honestly say, I really can't have company today. They know their heart and they know where they're at. And for that day, the right answer for them, the suffering one, is to say no. But then again, someone calls up and says, I'd like to stop by and for a cup of coffee. And that's just the answer there to the dilemma of the day. Yeah, come on by. I need company. You'll be a breath of fresh air, So to call and offer and see how they want to respond. It's interesting. Your choices, Shelby, have been to preserve the traditions and to keep a place alive for your husband who's passed away, and to remember him, and at least in memory, include him in looking back in appreciation for all the wonderful Christmas celebrations you did share and that sort of thing, and how important he was as a part of all that. I think that's a wonderful thing to do, a wonderful choice to make,
My sister and brother and I, one of us will always send greetings on my dad's birthday or my mother's birthday.
Right.
Just the 22nd of November, there, just a week before Thanksgiving. My mother would have been 102.
Well,
So
yeah, we're still counting those birthdays. It was a tough lesson. My dad died in June of 1986. Mom and Dad's anniversary was in May. And the next year, I didn't know whether or not to send an anniversary card to Mom, and none of us guys, none of the son, nobody called Mom that day or sent a card or anything. And Mom was deeply hurt. And she let us know. This is still a day to remember. This anniversary. This is a day to remember. And remember Dad's on his birthday. His birthday was a special day. It's June 14th, and that's Flag Day. So Dad always said when I celebrate my birthday, they always put all the flags. But she reminded us that the beat goes on, and it's still a day for celebration. It's still a day to remember. It's still a day to connect, and it still counts. Mom was always disappointed. I think they'd been married 48 years when Dad died, and she was disappointed that they never got to their 50th anniversary. And but we thought, well, gee, Dad's dead, so that's done, And she gently, sternly corrected us that she appreciated the remembrances on those special occasions.
So. My husband died 2 weeks before our 50th wedding anniversary.
2 weeks before. Oh, yeah. No. Oh.
Yeah, we were planning a party.
Well, yes, of course.
And ended up with a party, but it was a different kind than what we expected. But
no, instead of a anniversary party, it turned out to be a funeral luncheon, I would suppose.
When my daughter said they wanted to come down, we were up here, and it was just 3 weeks away. And my daughter said, well, Mom, we're all coming to Tennessee and we're going to have a party. So you better start, telling us what we need to do. I said, I don't want a party.
Oh, no.
my husband said he didn't want to party. And he said,
Oh,
nobody.
no.
Yeah, my husband said,
For
nobody
our 50th
would.
anniversary?
My 50,
Your
yeah.
50th anniversary, you didn't want to have a party? Oh, for goodness sakes.
And then finally once he said, well, I was organist and church secretary down in Tennessee. And he says, well, everybody knows you. They probably come because they know you, but not because of me.
Oh.
And so when we had the funeral and the church was full for him,
Right.
I said, I wonder if he's up there hovering around and seeing that, hey, yeah, they did
People
come.
did show up for me. Wonderful thought, Shelby. A wonderful thought.
Yeah. So anyway, so Christmas is 23 days away now. Any last
so. I
time?
don't know.
Oh, this is the 3rd, so
22 days away.
So any last thoughts before we have to sign off here about celebrating Christmas? Or
be true to your heart. Know where you're at. Know what your special needs are in this particular time of your life, whatever it is you might be facing, whatever ways you are healing. Seek what is best for you, and seek what is best for your healing. Seek what is best for you and your memories. Seek what is best for you and your family. And don't let people push you around. Accordingly, you know, you're the only one who knows your heart and who knows what the answer is to your needs. You're the one who knows you and your situation the best. So protect yourself and do what is best for yourself and your loved ones around you. That's what I'd say. Choose your activities wisely. Don't overextend, but don't hide in the house. So some people do want to hibernate and just don't want to face company or anything. And I think that can be a natural reaction, but eventually we want to be able to get out and reconnect, because I think that's where we'll discover our friendships and our acquaintances and our extended family is where we're finding the joy of life being restored. So there might be a time when we just don't want to face people and we just want to hibernate. We just want to have a quiet Christmas. What is that song that Dolly Parton sings? I'm ready. I know I'm facing a hard candy Christmas.
Oh,
I know, hard candy Christmas. And I've heard that song just 2 or 3 times by accident on the radio, and I'll tell you what, I really appreciate what's being expressed there. I really appreciate what's being expressed there.
Well, we wish everybody to have a good candy Christmas this year, don't we?
That's right.
We realize that there's going to be those times too. So it's time that we have to say goodbye.
Right.
And I thank the audience for being there and listening to us talk. And I hope this conversation has brought you some comfort, some insights, and maybe a little inspiration for facing your life storms. And I hope to see you next week, same time, 12 o'clock noon on Tuesdays. And thank you, Carl, for being here with me today.
Thank you, Shelby, for inviting me. Appreciate being here.
You're very welcome. And we'll say goodbye now.
Okay, bye-bye.